We've got OG Shadow, fresh out of prison. So many people thought he was unalived, but he's not unalived. He is here with us today. He was almost unalived, and we're going to get into that. I've not heard the full story yet, so I'm going to be reacting just like you guys. We've got until 9 o'clock and 90 minutes before we have our next show. So first off, huge thank you to OG Shadow for coming on, staying alive, brother. OG Shadow, if you're not familiar, he's been with the channel for many years, reporting on what's happening in Mexico. And yeah, we've all been through our addiction problems. We've all made mistakes. But OG Shadow turned his life around, was doing his reporting, was doing his YouTube. And next thing, they put him in prison. So we're going to find out what the hell happened. But glad to see you're alive, brother.
Good to see you, Sean, honestly. God bless you.
So what led up to your arrest?
So, as you know, I separated with my wife, right? And she basically was trying to get rid of me because she wanted to keep the house. We have several brand new cars, and she just saw the opportunity to basically get rid of me. So her cousin has connections within the police force, and I got stopped, and they were trying to tell me I had a warrant, and I knew I didn't have a warrant. But they were like, "Get in the car. We're going to take you in on your prints and this and that." And I was like, "No, I'm not going anywhere," because lots of times they clone police cars, and they do things like that, and they just pick you up and you disappear. And I knew I didn't have a warrant. It was bullshit. So I knew if I got in the car, they'd probably plant something on me or do something of that nature. They've done that before. If you remember when I was in prison about 3 years ago, they planted something on me. I won that case, and I was released. So when I told them I wasn't getting in the car, the patrol car, one of them got down, and we started to struggle basically in between me and him. Now it turned out, of course, I didn't have any warrants. No, but they took me in for violence against a peace officer. And so I show up there. They saw I didn't have any warrants, but because I struggled with the police officer, that was the pretext to put me into prison. So it was just a setup to get me in there again, basically. They don't like the channel either and what I'm doing. So on top of my wife manipulating the situation, trying to get rid of me, the actual government themselves are pretty happy to do so as well. They've been trying to do that a while, as you well know. And yeah, they took the opportunity and it worked. They got me in there.
All right, take us through your first day from the arrest.
Okay, so you go into a place that's called AMIC, the Agencia Ministerial de Investigación. It's where they investigate you place. They're basically the detectives. Now, you'll stay there usually about 48 hours while they're checking you out, and then they take you into the actual prison. Now, when they move you, they show up. They put chains on your feet, your hands. They're connected by a metal chain. They put you in a big van, and they take you down to the prison. Now, once you get into the prison, they ask you your name, your information, and they put you in line into a place that's called iniciados, which is initiates. And it's nuts because the mafia controls everything. So from the moment you come in, they strip you down completely naked. The mafia, they check your clothes, everything to make sure you have no weapons or narcotics, from outside that isn't theirs. Now, if they find something, it could actually end up costing your life because if it's not their product, they look at you as an enemy, especially if you've got lots of bags, hidden somewhere. And when I was there, they actually caught a kid that wasn't, you could say, selling, but he had 7 bags that weren't their bags. And I never saw him again. I don't know exactly what happened there, but they take you into Los Iniciados and they put you in there after stripping you down. And it's a huge room. There's probably like 150 cement bunks, and the bathrooms are in the back, and it's just like filled with this much water, and it's just a stench of urine and human waste. A lot of the human waste doesn't go down the drain, and a lot of people are just filthy and they just piss on the floor in there. And there's a huge fan at the entrance. It's probably about 2 meters high, a meter and a half wide, and it's just blowing air and circulating air. And that it circulates the air from the bathroom, so it's just a stench that's unreal. And it's dangerous because all these people, they could be from different organizations or have beef. They're all in the same room, if that makes sense. So a lot of things go down in Los Iniciados, and that's where the mafia starts investigating you as well before you go into the cell block. And you'll usually last about a week there before they go and move you into a cell.
All right, so you're going in then. Are they asking you who the hell are you?
Yeah, they found out pretty soon. And I made the decision to be honestly, because I figured, look, if I hide it and they see that I'm hiding it, it's going to be a lot worse for me when they find out, because they're going to think maybe I had bad intentions or beef, something there. So I just told them from the start, I was honest right off the start, and they were going to find out anyways, to say the least. And yeah, once they found out, they definitely started treating me a little bit different. A little more respect, but they were very cautious with me, and were looking basically not as an enemy necessarily, but as maybe a threat to them, a possible threat. So they were definitely being very cautious with me at first. And if you remember when I called you from inside there, that was the guy in charge of the whole prison. I kind of made a little bit of a friendship with him and convinced him to let me use his phone in the middle of the cell block. I don't know if you remember that call we did on Christmas.
Yes.
So yes, sir.
So what was the conversation like when you were telling them who you
No, when I
were?
called you. No. Okay. Well, no, I explained them, my past and about the YouTube channel as well. And he was actually, this is the first guy who was in charge of the prison. He actually ended up losing his life a couple months later, unfortunately, and that's what caused things to change. But he was really cool. I think he respected the fact I was honest with him and just straight up and told him how things were. And I wasn't surprised that he let me use the phone to call you and let me do that video call with you. I thought that was absolutely nuts because they don't let people take pictures or videos or anything like that. There's phones to use, but to actually get a video call out like I did with you that day, it was kind of unheard of. And it was a surprise, but it definitely brought up my spirits as well, being able to talk to you and tell you actually what's going on. I hadn't spoke to anyone about my situation and where I'm at. I didn't have family or anyone to help me, so it was nice being able to get in touch with somebody.
So where did they house you in the beginning?
So after Los Iniciados, they brought me. You can see the cell blocks in the video I call it did with you, and the cell block I was in is cell block 6, Pabellon Safe, and they put me in cell 632. Now, once I was in there, they put you in the cell. It's designed for 2 people, right? But there's actually about 20 people sleeping in these cells. So there's not a lot of people can't even lay down on the floor. There's no space at all, and you can imagine the tension as well with all these people in said room. And the weaker people or anyone who has charges like beating their wife or stuff like that, they have to sleep in the bathroom. So you can imagine how that goes. Um, I've got a couple of stories about people like that too, and how they got treated. It's pretty insane. But yeah, it's just overpopulated. 20 people in a cell designed for 2 people. They lock you down at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then at 6 they open up, and it's like a small city in there. There's about 9,000 prisoners, and every cell block has a little store where they sell the green, the white, the brown, the gray, and down there's phones too. Now these phones are just used for people to get money. They actually let you make the call. They don't charge you, but you have to ask for money. Now there's a bank account where you can send things to, as you know, and they end up taking 20% off the top of the money that's sent. So it's a big business for them. If you can imagine how many people call their families and try to get money, for food, clothes, blankets, anything, because the prison doesn't actually give you anything. They're supposedly given it's like $40 a day for each prisoner to ensure they have good food and everything else, clothes, et cetera, et cetera. But they don't give you anything. They just keep that money, and a lot of people suffer in there, especially during the cold months.
So did you get along with your cellmates?
Yeah, my first cell I did. The cellmates weren't really the problem when I first came in there. Um, but what happens is every time you get into punishment, and I got into the punishment area like 6 times because, when I'd be out in the cell blocks, out in the actual prison itself, people try to test you. And you can't bow down. You got to fight, if not, they're going to look at you as weak, and then you just become a victim repeatedly. And when you fight, you get sent to the punishment area. There's 3 of them. One is Alpha Lima 2, which is 24-hour lockdown. The other one is El Ocho, Pavilion 8, Subblock 8. And it's the hellhole in there. That's where all the bad people are. And a lot of people buy cells in there, like the Mafia, and they have their own cell. And people get put in their cells. And if they want to victimize them, you can imagine what happens. There's lots of things I could tell you. I don't know how much I can say on here, but it's pretty horrible. Now, after they send you to the punishment area, it's usually about 2 weeks, and then they send you into a different cell. So after the punishment area, they send you to some random cell. And that's where the problems, you might have gotten along in your first cell, but they send you to a different one and get out of control. Because every time you're just getting moved around, and eventually you're going to be put with people who aren't nice, to say the least. But my cellmates were never really the problem. It was more the guards. And after the fact that the dude who gave me the phone, and when that happened, the person who came in charge of the prison wasn't so fond of what was going on, and they ended up stealing my YouTube account because I'd used his phone to log into it, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee and other things that I had at that time, and had their way with my account, basically, and there's nothing I could do. They wouldn't let me use the phone again. They took my account, and the government was pretty pissed at the first guy who actually let me use the phone and let me do that call. He actually took a lot of heat for letting me call you and use the video. It caused him a lot of problems, and yeah, that's when things changed, to say the least. I started getting treated very differently, and it's dangerous in there, to say the least. I still have wounds that haven't healed due to the fact they use lances. They'll get like a knife and tie it to the end of a broomstick, and they'll rub raw pork on it. So when they stab you with it, it doesn't heal. I can show you a wound I have right here.
No,
I've had
don't
this for
show me the
about
wound.
3 or 4 months.
Don't show the
Oh yeah,
wound. Don't show the wound.
I got
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. I got stuck with the lance there on that. I got stuck on my right leg, and then I got stabbed here on the neck, in the back of my neck. So, and it doesn't heal for months because of the raw pork they rub onto the blade. It infects, and yes.
All right. So, viewers, if you've just tuned in, we're with OG Shadow live, fresh out of prison in Mexico. OG Shadow's been a friend of mine for years out of Sinaloa. He used to be doing the work with you know who, but then he changed his life around and became a YouTuber and started reporting on what was going on over there, the wars between the different factions. Anyway, he got put in prison. He goes in, and Mexican prison is no joke. His links, his new YouTube channel, his old channels were all hijacked. I put the link in the live chat. I put the link in the description box. His donation link, buy me coffee's in the description box. Well, so he goes in there as a YouTuber, as someone who was working with a different faction in the past, and they're questioning him, and they put him in a cell with 20 people, and then he gets heart checked, challenged 6 times. So take us through in as much detail as possible, please, OG. What happened the first time you got checked?
So I was actually going into one of the stores they have that's called the Snail at Caracol, and they have several stores that aren't in the actual cell block. Now, I was gonna buy a pack of cigarettes, and it's crazy. The cigarettes are really expensive in there for Mexico. It's $5 a pack. And while I was in there, somebody came up and they just pushed me, and I turned around and they started saying kind of like some racist remarks to me about being a gringo and stuff like that. And I kind of ignored him for the most part. I was trying to avoid the problem, but then he put his hands on me again on my shoulder, and I told him to let go. He didn't, so I stuck him with an elbow, like right, in his mouth, and we started going at it. And he had a friend who was on his side, and so I ended up fighting both of them. But the people actually in the store that of the Mafia store right there. They don't like violence there, and they saw this dude started. He was basically, causing problems there. So they broke it up and kind of saved me, if you want the truth, because it was two against one, and I didn't take any serious wounds that time or anything, but it could have gone that way very fast if it wasn't broken up, I'm sure.
And then what happened the next time?
Well, the next time I got sent to the punishment, okay, they lock you down at 3 o'clock, right? But a lot of people pay a guard, and you can stay out later to like 7 or 8, and you can go where the phones are, where you can receive money. And if you're asking for money or things like that, they let you stay out of your cell block, right? Because they're gonna make something the 20%, right? A lot of people use it just to not get locked down, and that's honestly what I was doing. I didn't feel like getting locked down and sent to the cell right at 3 o'clock. And the guards changed shift at 6. Now, right around 6, I started to head back to the cell block, but one of the guards that had personal beef with me because he knew I used to work with Mayo's people, and this prison is controlled by the Salazares, which are mercenaries for the Chapo's people, and there's beef, right? The guards are on the side of the mafia. It's not like in the United States where the government and the criminals are separate sides. They actually work together in the prison. The mafia are basically proxies of the guards, and they work together, like I said. Now, one of the guards stopped me on the way back there, and I told him I'd already given money. He said, "But you haven't given money to me." And honestly, I didn't have any more money. And that's where it went. He took me right into the punishment area for being out after the hours. And you get like a slip, a piece of paper that's called a certificado. And what happens with that is when you're going to get released, they use that against you, and you can be hauled for every certification that they give you, which is like the punishment paper is like 3 months extra, right, on your sentence. So I ended up going that time to Alpha Lima 2, and the cell they put me in there was no joke. There's a dude who was into a lot of satanic stuff. The walls are just written up with all types of occult things, and he basically extorted people who came in there. He tried to make you call your family to get money, and they'd take it from you basically. Now I wasn't going to let that happen, so we got into it, and that's when I got stuck with the lance inside there. They really messed me up because it didn't get broke up, and there was 4 or 5 of them. When I got taken out of the cell, my eye right here, I couldn't open it for about 3 months. I had 2 broken ribs, and when I laid down, it just hurt to stand up. It was insane, the pain I was in. My head swelled up, and they told me I might actually lose my eye, and insane. So I was in the actual clinic there for about a week, and they were, monitoring my recovery. But they sent me back to another punishment area, just with different people.
OG,
And
you went over that altercation quite fast. Could you describe the altercation with the
okay,
lance and what a lance is to the viewers?
okay, it's a knife that they put on the end of a broomstick, right? And that's where they rub the pork fat on it. That's why I have the wounds I have that haven't healed still. And dude was trying to get me to call family or friends to get money for him, and I wasn't going to do it. So we got into it, and there was a bunch more in the cell than me that were on his side, and they tore me apart. To be honest, I tried to defend myself, but when you're in a tiny cell and it's 4 or 5 people working you, and they have a lance, it's something else. Now, most of the wounds weren't fatal until he stuck me here. When he stuck me in the neck, that was different. I realized that things had changed. That they're trying to get blood, and yeah, I was pretty close to losing my life there. To be honest, uh, it's probably the worst beating I've ever taken in my life. And there's no one to save you, no one to stop it. They have weapons as well, and you just get thrown in this punishment area. And on top of that, what they'll do if you're weak and you do call your family and stuff, they'll also, when your food shows up, okay, you can't leave the cell 24 hours a day, so they bring food to you 3 times a day. They'll just take your food, and it's called putting you on a diet. And they'll do that until you call your family or friends. They'll basically starve you on top of the beatings. But because I stood up against them and got into a fight with them, that didn't happen like that. But it's pretty insane. Jojo, I saw your comment, brother. Much love, big dog. I miss you, Jojo. Stay up, homie.
Shout
My
out to
link, there's a
Jojo.
link down on my channel. So just send me your information, brother. Get in touch.
So you're getting asked, where did they get the pork fat from? Is it from the kitchen or brought in?
From the kitchen. From the kitchen. Actually, a lot of the meals they serve are pork. Like they do 3 times. I'll tell you guys basically. There's a different food every day, right? So, like for example, on Sunday, um, the meal is mole, but the other 2 meals are the same every day. In the morning, you're always gonna get a tole, which is like a heavy shake. How would I say, like cornmeal, something like that. And they give you a piece of bread. And then the actual good meal is, like I said, the middle day meal. For example, Sunday's mole. And after that, they give you beans around 3 o'clock. And it's the same every day. And they're just undercooked beans. So the only good meal actually is the lunchtime meal.
All right, let's go back to the altercation then. So they chop you in the neck with a lance. Why did they stop? Did the guards come, or why did they leave you?
Well, because they basically beat me into submission, to be honest. I was on the floor with broken ribs, bleeding all over the place. And they just left me there. And the next day, the guards saw me, how bad my condition was. And they probably decided not to kill me because they wanted to get money out of me. So they probably figured they'd beat me into nothing. And then the next day, they'd probably do the same thing and try to get me to call my family and friends. And that would keep going until I did so. So they weren't trying to kill me because they don't get money out of it. But lots of times it gets out of hand. Like they stabbed me in the neck. So they might have not necessarily had the intention to kill me first off because they weren't going to make money. But lots of times people die because they're beating you and sticking you with a lance. You can imagine things get out of hand.
All right, so is there any kind of medical treatment in there?
It's a joke. It's honestly a joke. They have antibiotics and stuff, and they're always expired. And the guards take you down to the clinic, and the people there are just cruel to the prisoners. If you have wounds, they're just really rough cleaning them out, and they really aren't too happy, to treat you at all. And they basically give you nothing. Sometimes they'll give you a shot of antibiotics because the wound's infected. But like I said, it's expired. The antibiotics, the medication doesn't really work. So medical treatment is basically a joke in there. Yeah.
All right, so they try and clean you up. The medical people, it's a joke, and then they put you in an area of the prison where the guys who can attack you can still access you, or you removed from them.
They put me back in the same punishment area, the same cell block, but in a different cell. And as a 24-hour lockdown, they don't have a chance to hurt you if you're not in the cell with them. And the cell they put me in, I got along with the people there, thank God. And they actually helped me recover. When the meals were brought and stuff, they'd bring it to me that I wouldn't have to get up because of my broken ribs. And I was blessed to be able to actually put in a cell with people like that and made a good friendship with 7 of the people there. One of their brothers was actually a good friend of mine, and my compadre actually ended up killing his brother. Unfortunately, that's how beefs are. And so it's crazy how things are connected. And I was in there with, a brother of a good friend of mine that came out and had beef with my compadre later on. So it's a small world sometimes. And I was blessed to be put in that cell and with good people. They helped me recover. And because I was already in the punishment area, and then I got in another fight, they gave me another certification because I was already in the punishment area. And now instead of being in there for 2 weeks, I was going to do 2 months because you're already in the punishment area and then you got in a fight again. The guards look at it like, another reason to punish you more. Even though I wasn't really fighting, I was being attacked and just trying to defend myself. They don't really care.
So after you got chopped in the neck, was that one of your lowest moments?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Not being able to walk or even breathe basically hurt, for the ribs. And then this got infected. I tried to show you the one on my left leg. You told me not to show it. It also got infected. It's been about 3 months and it's just barely healing. and they stabbed me on my right leg too. Trying to incapacitate me, stabbing me in my leg. Um, yeah, definitely a low point when you're just being beaten to submission by a bunch of people. You have no chance, and they have a lance, basically a spear, and they're sticking you. I honestly thought I was gonna die. I put that on my kids, and I said a prayer. Don't let me die here. I don't want to die here. And thank God I didn't.
And do you think those new? Do you think that your new cellmates were like your guardian angels?
Most definitely. And there was a little bit of respect in there. They knew who I was on the outside, and the fact that I knew it was one of their brothers really helped me out. And they definitely were like guardian angels. They really did help me recover and were really friendly with me. And they kind of respected me too because I didn't bow down when I got heart checks. And then in the other cell, when they tried to extort me basically, I didn't let that happen either. So they kind of respected that and were really, they were nice to me to say the least. And God bless them. They definitely did help me. And I was at a
All right.
point there I wouldn't even be defend myself. I was so hurt. If they would have put me in another cell with the people who wanted to mess me up, I was already messed up. It wouldn't have been hard for them at all to finish me off.
Wow, man, I can't imagine what that does to you mentally. So you said there was 6 altercations. You've described 2 of them. What was the next one?
Okay. The next one, I started actually working in one of the stores there they had at a cash register. All right. Now, it's not like a cash register like you think. You're just writing everything down. They give you the money, you put it in the box, it gets registered. Now, someone decided to steal something from the store. And when that happens and they don't find out exactly who it was, everyone who's working gets punished because they look at it like, oh, you don't want to tell us who was stealing here, and you work with him, you're protecting him. You go to the punishment area again. So I got blamed for someone who stole a damn stereo from one of the area that we're at there from. It's like a tower. They call it the tower, and the area is called Alpha Lima One, and it's 2 stories. It's like a big tower. You think now the top story, the person in charge for the mafia in the store, and that pavilion in that cell block sleeps on the second floor. On the first floor, there's a cash register and the actual store. Now, someone had actually walked up when the dude wasn't in his bedroom, and they ended up taking a stereo and several things, and everyone who was working got sent to the punishment area. And before I got
Oh,
sent there, they beat the shit out of me with a bamboo stick, and then they gave me tablazos, what they call it, where they have this big board. Gracias, hermano. Gracias. And they just beat you into submission, the guards, before they send you in the punishment area because you were stealing, supposedly, or involved with, stealing.
so they
I'm gonna take a
beat
sip
you
of
with a
water,
bat.
brother.
Yeah, yeah. While OG does that, OG's links are in the description box. OG is my friend out of Sinaloa, Mexico. He's been reporting on what's going on out there. He used to be in the mix with those guys, but he reformed his life, and he's just recently got out of prison, and he's talking about almost losing his life and the situations he's been through. This is the first time he's talked about this stuff since he's got out online on a live stream. So we appreciate that. And all right, so was there 3 more times you went to the punishment? You got done for punishment?
Yes, the other times the next 2 times were for me being out after hours, and they basically caught me again. They put me right in the punishment area. But the last time, the 6th time, was different because I was in my cell, and at this time, as I've been working in that store, I'd sleep there in the night. So they don't lock you down. You're in the store and you just sleep there. Everyone else is locked down around 3. But while I was sleeping there, laying on the floor, someone once again stole, but this time it wasn't just like a stereo or something. And this happens constantly. There's lots of robberies because people have addiction problems, and some of them can't resist, to grab something, as you can imagine. And they're working in a store with all these substances right there in front of them. And he ended up stealing like 7,000 pesos of product, which is like $400, something like that. And that was different because it was how do I say, touchy enough to where someone could lose their life. and they started beating everyone that was there. And luckily, they found out who did it. The dude confessed, and another person snitched on him as well. But we all still got sent to the punishment area because they said, "Well, why didn't you tell us the first time we asked you? Why do we have to, beat you to get the information out of you?" And it's because you can't snitch. Even if this dude you're working with stole something and he's getting you in trouble, you can't snitch on him because then everyone in the prison is going to look at you like a snitch, right? So you just got to keep your mouth shut. And if they beat you or whatever happens, happens. There's no telling on people. So that was the last time I got sent to the punishment area. And after that, I decided I wasn't going to work at a cash register or do anything in there because, as they say here, parabola is like when you end up getting in trouble and taking the blame for the actions of another person. And I was tired of that happening. And yeah, I just needed income though too. I don't have family here, and I didn't have a steady source of income. Yeah, that was the only place to actually work and actually make something. So you can buy a little bit better food, you can buy clothes you need, and yeah, they survive because the food in there is nothing great at all. I ended up getting anemia from malnutrition in there, so I had to start taking these little iron pills because yeah, the food shit. Excuse me.
So you said you saw some bad things happen to people. What was the first one you saw?
Okay, I don't know how much I can say, but in the punishment area where I was at in the eight, they ended up sticking this dude in the cell, and this is the fourth time I was in the punishment. And the cell he got put in, there was someone who liked to abuse of people, to say the least. Right now, I could hear everything that was going on. He was two cells down, and the dude was telling him, basically that he was gonna have his way with him that night. And the dude was like, "No, no, no, I'm hardcore, whatever." And they got at, they went at it. And the dude who wanted his cheeks beat him down and actually ended up putting up a blade to his neck. Ended up hearing later, in a big blade. And it's crazy because a lot of prisoners have even machetes in there. So don't think it's like in the United States where you have your homemade knives. They all have real knives and stuff that are brought in by the guards or whoever, and they're well armed. So he had his way with this dude all night in the bathroom, and had everyone else in the cell just sit on the floor. And he repeatedly assaulted this younger guy, and it was horrible to hear the noises and hear this dude crying and just being broke down.
And would that booty bandit would the fellas try and get to him the next day, or they just let him run? He's like separate, or how's it work?
Well, it's crazy because he was part of the mafia that was in there, and that was his cell. And yeah,
So he had status; he could just do that all day long.
oh yeah, exactly. Being sent to the punishment area is always a risk because you can be put in a cell with somebody like that, or like the people who try to extort me. Almost took my life as well. It's like a spider web, and they're waiting for people to fall into their web. They buy the cell, and they know people are going to be sent to the punishment area and put in their cell randomly, and they can do what they want.
All right. What was the next bad stuff you saw, heard happen to someone?
Okay, when I got out of the punishment, the fifth time, I got sent to a cell block, which is cell block 7. Now, when I got into the cell, there was an older, I don't want to say gentleman because he's not, guy in the bunk, and there's about, I think, 18 or 17 of us in the cell. Now, there was a guy who sold cookies that are called cochitos. They're little, like, pork-shaped cookies. They're shaped like a pig, right? Now, the next morning, we get, they open the doors up around 6, and you go get your food. You go get in line, get your atole and your bread. Got my food, went back to the cell. Cold as hell. It's like December. Sitting there eating, drinking my atole, putting the bread in it, and all the guards come. Not all, but a lot of them. There was like 6 of them, and they took almost like, I think it was 7 or 8 of them out of the cell together. And I was like, damn, what happened here? We didn't know what happened until later on that day. I ended up hearing from somebody, what actually happened. The night before, when I wasn't there, like when I was still in the punishment area, so the night before they put me in that cell, 6 people invited the guy who sold cookies to get high. So they passed him a syringe, and he thought it was the brown, but they put some type of other sedative in there, and they put him to sleep. And they all these 6 or 7 guys had their way with him, and he told on them. He told the guards, and that's why they took these people out of the cell, and they ended up getting transferred to a different prison and put into like an area with, how would you say, sex offenders, something like that. They can't be put in regular population again. So they drugged this dude, and it was crazy because he was a young dude. He's probably like 50 years old, all tattooed up and stuff. But when someone gives you a shot and you're asleep, there's really nothing you can do about it. So thankfully that happened the day before I got sent to the cell, but it was just nuts, the things that were going on there. And no one really, there's no punishment for booty bandits or punishments for this or that. It's just free for all. And you have a bunch of people who are just nasty, and is what it is.
So you got people getting put to sleep and then they're just taking the cheeks.
Yep. Yeah, I'd never accept drugs from somebody like that. I never use a syringe either, I don't have marks or anything. But if you can imagine, just taking a shot and you don't know what's in there is a stupid idea to start with, right? And no one really wants to give out free drugs. That doesn't happen either. So it's really suspicious to start with. But the dude might have been dope sick, or maybe he thought he had trust with these people in the cell because he'd been there a while. He'd already been there like 5 or 6 months in that cell, and they were probably just working him into trusting him until they got to the point where they could just pass him a syringe. He didn't even know what it is, and he just shoot up, and they had their way with him.
Were there any moments, OG, when you saw someone laying eyes on you like they wanted to take your cheeks?
Let me think. I had one dude talk to me one time, like trying to tell me I was cute or something like that, and I basically cut him off right there and let him know, if he kept that up, we were gonna get down and end up in the punishment area. And it is what it is. The good thing he wasn't too big or anything. He was an older dude and all junkied up, and I knew I could take him if I had to. But I was trying to avoid problems anyways. But I cut him off right where it was at. And sometimes, people talk to you and they try to, like, they're testing you. They'll be like, "Oh, you're cute," or "nice eyes," or whatever, and they're trying to see if you'll defend yourself or if you'll be a victim. So you got to show right away that you're willing to defend yourself and take it there, and that's where it usually stops because they're looking for weak prey that's not going to defend themselves. So once they see you are going to defend yourself, usually they leave you alone. But yeah.
And did you make bond with anybody who could have your back and watch out for each other?
Oh yeah, one of the dudes who was in charge of the phones in one of the cell blocks. I'm not going to say which one because I don't want to get him in trouble. I'd hang out with him basically all the nights, and he'd always lie for me and say, "Oh, he just received money or he's calling," and he would just let me stay out of my cell and chill with him. And they always cooked food. They always did like a dinner. They'd buy stuff and cook it themselves. And they never ate the beans. The people who work on the phones always have money. They're receiving that 20%. And dude was cool. He let me be out of my cell lots of times. But that's also why I got stuck in the punishment area several times for being out after hours. But it keeps your morale up, to not be locked down since three in the afternoon to 6 in the morning with 20 people in a cell. You can't even walk. You can't even move. It's so overcrowded. So that dude was really cool. And then the actual dude who was in charge of the tower where I was working at, where they stole the stereo from him and stuff like that, he almost ended up becoming a father figure to me. He really helped me out. He let me stay there, and I had my own space. And the people who work with the tower, with the little stores with the Mafia, they send you 3 different foods a day that's cooked by them from their kitchen. And he'd always ask for extra plates and lie. They say there was more people working for them than there were. And he'd always give me a couple extra plates of food and stuff like that. And this dude was really cool. He gave me lots of good advice. And he was actually in there because he got stopped by 3 federal police officers and got out of the car and just lit him up with an AK-47. He killed 2 of them, left the third one mortally wounded, ended up in a wheelchair. So dude was no joke, you know. He was no slouch, but he was definitely kind to me. And I don't really want to say his name. I can't really do that, but I respect him a lot, and he actually made my time there a lot more comfortable. And when people saw that I was cool with him and the relationship we had, they kind of stepped away too because they knew there'd be consequences for doing stuff to me as well. And God bless him, honestly. Dude was a cool dude. I'm not gonna say he was a great person, like he gave charity or anything like that, but he was kind to me and helps me out a lot. And
Yeah, making alliances with the right
is what it
people
is.
is making alliances with the right people is very important in a situation like this. So, what about
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
you talked about the brutality of the people taking the cheeks. What about people getting unalived?
Oh, okay, that happens a lot. What they'll usually do is they'll off you, and then they'll take your body and put a quarter on your neck, and it shows up that you committed suicide to hide the violence. If that makes sense, it's very common in there. They suicide you, and I knew a couple people that happened to. There was a dude actually in there. So he was working in the mafia where they actually bag up the substances. And normally, how they'd separate it, there's bags. Let's say with the brown, there's 10 peso bags. You can imagine that 10 pesos, which is like 50 cents. 20 peso bags, 30 peso bags, and 50 peso bags. Now all of them break down to where they're getting 1,200 for each gram. So let's say with the 50s, there's 24 50 peso ones. Okay, with the 60s, right? Or with the 20s, there's 60 of them. So either way, it breaks down to 1,200. But what this guy started doing, he was bagging it up. Instead of putting a gram into each of them, he'd take point 0.8. So out of every gram, he was doing point 0.2, right? And we're talking about a ridiculous amount of dope that's being sold there. So this was just bagging up all day, and he's taking point 0.2 out of every gram. Now he got away with this for about 9, 10 months. And when they finally figured out what was going on there, because the bags looked small, or who knows what happened, if someone snitched on him, I'm not sure actually how he got caught, but he did. Um, he got suicided, and they actually
Wow.
estimated
Let's call it unalived. Unalived.
okay. So the
Yeah.
dude I was working with in the tower that I told you was like a father figure, he actually told me that when they pulled out the numbers that this dude had stolen like 800,000 pesos, which is about $40,000, over those months that he was there. So it was a big no-no, and he paid the ultimate price.
So a lot of people, OG, are asking about how your accounts got stolen while you were in there. And let me just explain to people. OG had a couple of YouTube channels that he was running for years. And when OG first went inside, he put a video out asking people to help him. And thank you for everybody who did help him. But then all of a sudden, the descriptions on his channels changed. Some crazy stuff. And they were putting up more and more videos, old videos, and asking for more and more money. So it was obvious to us something had gone wrong for you there, man. And we thought they'd unalived you, and they were just trying to get money, trying to get money, trying to get money. So what actually happened?
So I used the phone of the guy I told you that was first in there that let me use the phone to call you. And I'd actually done several videos for the channel inside the prison. I don't know if you remember that. I started doing videos inside. Now, when he got killed and lost his unalived, um, they were able to get into my account from his phone because I'd logged into the YouTube channel and several things. And they logged into my account and stole my account. What it is, the new people that were in charge, they weren't too happy of me making videos in there, or that the dude let me do video calls, especially considering that I'd worked for an organization that is a rival to them. They didn't like that at all. So they had their way with my channels and tried to get money out of it, what it is, and nothing I could do.
And was the guy unalived who had the phone? Was he unalived because he was helping you make videos?
I think that might have made it a little bit worse, but it was more because of a beef he had on the outside. So he was in charge of the prison. Some new people show up and enter the prison, and they had beef with him because he killed one of their family members. So they actually ended up doing like a coup d'état, if you want to look at it like that. They ended up unaliving several people, him included. So the actual people in charge of the prison changed when these new people came in, and they took his life because he was the guy in charge, and because he killed a family member of him on the outside.
When they took his life, did you feel vulnerable?
Tell me again, brother.
When they took his life, did you feel vulnerable?
Oh yeah, I thought I might be on a list too because I'd been making videos and everything from his phone, and I knew they were gonna see that. But thankfully, they just wanted to get money out of it. But they did come and speak with me and ask me about making videos and what was going on there, and basically explained they weren't too happy about it, and if they caught me doing it again, uh, it was gonna cost me my life. So
And if they shut you off then and they had your account, were you unaware what they were doing on your account, or did you know what they were doing?
okay, so I talked to several people on the outside, like one of the people who left comments here, Jojo, and they actually told me what was going on with my account. So after about a month or two, I was aware just from talking to people. They would let me know what's going on because I was in touch with several of my friends that watched this channel while I was in there, and they ended up letting me know.
And how did that make you feel? They were messing around with your account like that and putting crazy things in your description?
Honestly, I was thinking I wanted to get out of there, right? But at the same time, I'm not gonna lie to you, it definitely ran through my head to do something, right? But thankfully, I didn't because I was only there about a year and a half, and if I would have taken someone's life, I would have been there a lot longer. And that happens to a lot of people. They get a small sentence, but things happen to them that piss them off or provoke them. They end up taking someone's life and end up staying there 15, 20 years. So I was pissed. I'm not going to lie, like I said, but I wasn't trying to stay there 15, 20 years either. So you just got to weigh the consequences. And I knew I could start a new channel whenever I got out. It wasn't that big of a deal. But it was the fact that someone stole something that I'd worked on for years and years, have hundreds of videos, and it put a lot of my blood and hard work into it. And I'd risked my life and a lot of things for those channels. Made a big change in a lot of places with charity, things like that. It has a history, and to have that taken from you, it's definitely a hit to the morale.
And are you still locked out of those accounts?
Yes, yes, I am.
I'm just gonna, for the viewers, I'll put your YouTube channel link again in the live chat. It's also in the description box. So, how long were you incarcerated for this time?
It was about a year and 6 months in total.
So, a year and 6 months. And would you say that you just had to adapt and get on with it and get through it?
Exactly, Sean. You know how it is. You were in that same situation. You just got to be strong and accept what's going on because if you're just sad and crying all the time, it's going to take a lot. Time's going to go by a lot slower, and people are going to notice that, and it kind of might make you a victim too. So you just got to stay strong. You don't let people see how you're suffering, and just try to make the best out of what you can while you're there, and keep your head up.
And did your case have to go through a trial or anything like that?
So, like we have like a plea bargain system in the United States. That's basically what I ended up taking, and I'm basically out on a probation type deal right now, where I have to go every week and sign a paper saying I'm here, and they do drug testing, and yeah, I'm gonna be on that for 6 months. It's already been about a month, and yeah, so I'm basically on a probation type of deal.
And while you're inside and vulnerable, were you thinking there was going to be some kinds of retribution because of what you'd done on YouTube in the past? All the stories?
Oh yeah, especially because on top of that, me working for a rival organization before. I even have a corrido. I even have a song. So it would be how would I say, like a patch on their shoulder, like a stripe for killing me. I'm someone in the rival organization, someone who's well known, and yeah, even if you're not involved in it for years and years, the fact that you once were, that's enough to get you killed. And on top of the YouTube channel, And me reporting on these people in specific, the Salazar's and the Chapo's people, I did lots of videos on the things they were doing that weren't right, exposing them. So I'm put into a jail, a prison that's controlled by the people I was exposing. So you can imagine that I was expecting things could go very bad very fast.
So every time the new arrivals come in, are you thinking that might be an enemy who recognizes me and it's going to go off?
I'll tell you an insane story, Sean, talking about that. I got a good one. So I'm in the punishment area. And there's a dude cleaning outside the cell. They have like inmate workers. And I don't know if you remember one of the times I had to leave my house and go to a different city because people, showed up at my house to do something to me, and I'd take my family to another city. It was about 3 years ago. He was in part of the team that showed up at my house. Now, if he first said something to me, and I thought he was just bullshitting, but he mentioned my crocodiles. And I don't know if you remember I had crocodiles, and there's no way he could have known that.
Yep.
So I'm sitting there in the jail, and there's an enemy sicario that had showed up at my house to kill me, and they tore my house apart. I don't know if you remember the video. They destroyed my house basically,
Yep.
and he was part of the team that went there and showed up. And their plan was to kill me and my family, but I had a little bit of advance notice from somebody and was able to get out of there beforehand. But they killed all my pets, tore everything apart. So I'm sitting there in the punishment area with a rival sicario who torn apart my house. And
Wow.
small world once again.
Wow.
And, and he
Wow.
actually told me, no, I was just following orders. I have nothing against you personally. So I kind of respect him because he could have not told me anything and just stabbed me in the back or something. But the fact he came up and wanted to get conversation out of me and was friendly and actually identified himself, I respected him for that, and pretty nuts, the world we live in.
So how corrupt is it with the staff in there?
Tell me again?
How corrupt is it with the staff, the guards?
Oh, it's as corrupt as it can get. It's openly sell. They openly sell dope all over the place in every cell block, and there's several other stores. You can buy beer. You can buy conjugal visits. You can buy anything you want that you can imagine. Weapons. Um, you can actually pay to move cells. You can just give them money, and you give them like $10, $15, and you can move to a different cell. You can pay to have people sent to the punishment area, and you can also pay for the guards to take people's life, and they show up, that they hurt themselves, and it's actually really cheap to do that. It's probably around $500, and they'll go take someone's life for you.
My goodness. All right, you got
So
a
it's as
question
corrupt as
here from Sophie. How did you keep strong knowing you had done that to your house and maybe killed your pets?
I really didn't have an option, and like I said, I kind of respected him for coming out and telling me openly, but it was definitely hard as well, because I love my animals and my pets. A lot of them are rescue animals. Like there's actually a Petco in the city, and when the animals got too big for their cage or they couldn't have them there, I was on a list of people who take the animals and give them shelter. So my sons also had lots of the pets were theirs, and that was the hardest part because I had to watch the faces of my kids knowing that someone came in the house and just slaughtered their animals and tore apart the house, all the toys, everything, just destroyed everything. If you remember, I had a pretty nice house and I lived comfortably.
Whoa. Oh, geez. Looks like OG's
My
losing
oldest
it.
channel, what they did. And the people who did that, there was like 8 or 9 of them. 2 of them ended up in prison. The other 6 of them ended up being chopped up and stuck in ice chests and left by the bridge entering the city. So, you live by the gun, you die by the gun.
Oh, my God. Wow. So, as you're getting through this then, and you did this plea bargain thing, so you knew when you was going to get out, what did it feel as you got closer to getting out?
I didn't believe I was going to get out every time because they told me 3 or 4 times you're going to get out in this date or whatever and this, and I just kind of lost faith in it and didn't believe it, to be honest. But when they finally pulled me out of my cell, and it was like they release you at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. They release you right before midnight. So when they pulled me out of my cell at that time and took me down there, I knew I was going to get out. and it was nuts. The feeling when they open those doors, you just have freedom. I looked around. I hadn't even thought of what I'm gonna do or where I'm gonna go because I didn't really believe I was gonna get out. So they let me out. I'm looking around and fresh air. I can't even explain the feeling. And I just started walking. There's a gas station down the street, and I walked in there and got an ice cream bar and some chocolate and a bunch of things I hadn't eaten in a long time. And it was quite an experience to have something sweet in my mouth and ice cream. Something. It's just crazy. A lot of the times when you're in these places, you just obsess and think about food because they're giving you the same garbage every day. Yeah,
How did
yeah,
you
you know what it's
how
like,
did you
John.
how did you survive off that garbage, man? And did you get commissary?
Well, that's why I started working at the cash register and shit because they start giving you better food, and then you're getting paid a little bit every month, and you can buy better food as well. But the first months I was there, I lost a lot of weight. I lost probably about 40 pounds, if you can imagine that. I showed up there weighing about 185, and within a couple months, I was down to about 145 pounds. So lost a lot of weight. I'm just regaining it right now. I've gained about 15 pounds, so I'm up to about 160, but I'm still skinny. I'm regaining my weight and trying to build my weight back up, but it's hard. It's no joke. It's complete garbage what they serve you, and if you don't have family who comes and visits you and brings you food or steady income, you're gonna suffer.
What about visits? Did you get any?
No, not one. As I didn't have anyone in that city, and I didn't want my kids to see me in the situation I was in. On top of that, my ex, I'm sure she wouldn't have came and visit me and brought them. I didn't get a visit, and that was the hardest part because every uh, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday are visiting days, and I'd watch all the other people in the cells go to their visits and come back with bags of food and all happy for seeing their family or their wife or whatever. And that was hard. That really tore me apart every time because I missed my kids. I wanted to see them more than anything. And just not having food or having a visit, it brings up your morale when you get that. And never having one the whole time I was there and watching everyone else get them, it was hard.
It was hard, man. Definitely. I mean, this is just for people who've tuned in. Mexico prison. It's just raw survival, and OG's in there, and he's almost killed if you didn't hear what happened earlier on. So we've got about 30 minutes left before the next show. Are there any other prison stories you want to say before I go over to all the questions that have come in for you?
Okay, let me think 1 second here. Give me 1 second. Phew. Mm. Let's get into the questions. Let's get into the questions better.
All right, the main ones are things like if you start doing all this again on your channel, you know, is it gonna you said you're on probation and stuff. Is it gonna cause problems for you?
It could, but honestly, I think of this as I'm making a difference in the world, exposing a lot of evil that's gone on, and I've already made a big change, in lots of different ways. So if I die from this, it's well worth it because I'm actually making a difference in the world and actually having a purpose. And we're all going to die anyways, but at least doing something that makes a difference, like I said, and gives you a purpose in life is a big motivator. And I'm never going to stop. I'm not going to stop because of threats. As you well know, I got threatened by the police organization. They even sent letters to me, if you remember that I posted it up. And I'm just kind of used to it now. It's always a factor that I could end up paying with prison or with death, but I'm not going to stop for anyone. No one's going to break me down like that.
All right, get your questions in, viewers. We've got Patty. Aren't you scared staying in Mexico? They could throw you back in prison. Don't you want to go to the USA or Canada?
Yeah, that would be nice, but that would be the easy way out as well. I feel like I'm the only one really reporting in English and giving real information, and I'm actually here on the ground where things are happening. And if I was in the United States, I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd just be reporting secondhand information. And yes, but good question.
So Agent Orange wants to know about prisoners moving their families into prison and conjugal visits.
Agent Orange, I've been trying to get a hold of you for so long, dude. I have no way to get a hold of you, my friend. Um, Man, if you want to leave me a message or some way to get a hold of you, I'd really appreciate that. And my buy me a coffee, I think you can leave a message or something with your phone number. I've been trying to get a hold of you. But conjugal visits, so if you're married, you get one every 3 months. If not, if you want conjugal visits when you want them or whatever, it's 3,000 pesos. So it's very expensive. It's like $150. And they have three different areas of conjugal visits. One of them is more luxurious, which is Alpha Lima Tres, which is one of the Mafia pavilions where it's just heavy people. The cells have flat screens. There's a pool. Um, they're really luxurious rooms. It looks like a hotel room, basically, at a nice hotel. Then there's the government ones, which is more basic. There's just a bed in there, not too much. And then in the other Mafia area, Alpha Lima 1, it's not as nice as Alpha Lima 3, but they're nice cells. They're clean, nice bed, air conditioner, and a TV. But yeah, Alpha Lima 3 is just really luxurious. They charge you about 3,000 there. And then the government ones, I think it's like 2,500 or 2,000. But yeah,
If anyone wants to contact OG, send me an email and I'll forward it to OG.
please.
My email is atwood.sean@hotmail.co.uk. All right, so Doc wants to know, did prison get choppy when Mayo was captured? Do you have any inside information on that?
Did I get choppy? What do you mean? I don't understand.
Did prison, inside prison, did it get more dangerous when Mayo was captured?
Not necessarily, but I knew things were really going to kick off and they were going to start to try to take Culiacan because they'd already planned on doing that. But when Smile got caught, they kind of speeded up the things, and that kind of did worry me because as I was part of his people before, um, them killing a lot of Chapo's people in the Salazares, like for example in San Luis Rio, Colorado, they took that from Chapo's people and tore him apart. One of his lieutenants, Russo, definitely worried me because for their actions, maybe someone could get pissed off, and they know I used to work for them and take out some anger on me, to say the least. So definitely a possibility, but thank God it didn't end up costing me my life.
Thank you for the super chat, Stephen. Anyone who sends super chats, I'm going to send all the money to OG through his buy me a coffee link in the description box.
Thank you, brother. Wow.
When I finish streaming late tonight. So we've got Stephen Brixley. Bless your efforts and intentions. You are in my prayers. And IDUCR raise respect to Sean and Shadow for the real journalism. Thank you for all
Thank
you
you.
do.
Thank you, Lucas. I remember you on my channel. Thank you. Thank you.
And you've got a few people asking, because they're not familiar with your work, why you wear a mask.
Because I'm not trying to bring attention to myself, more than anything. A lot of people, I've shown my face before on this channel and taken the mask off. They've seen my face before, but it's not something I'm trying to put out there constantly and have everyone see it all the time. And when I go into public, could cause me problems constantly. So it's just a preventative measure.
For people asking for the buy me a coffee link, I've just put that in the live chat, and it's also in the description. Christina wants to know, did the U.S. government work with El Chapo?
Yes. In fact, for example, they had caught his son Ivan, and what he ended up doing is betraying Mayo without Mayo knowing, and getting Mayo's son Vicente arrested, who was a lot more higher priority target. So they'd release his son. So he basically traded Mayo's son to get his son released. So he definitely had connections and worked with the U.S. government on lots of levels. Good question.
All right. So next question is, are you still in touch with Carlos, Comandante, Fantasma?
Yeah, dude's a fake. I try to be friendship with him, but he's just I don't want to say anything bad or talk about bad about people. I'm not trying to be negative, but yeah, there's no friendship there anymore. Dude kind of screwed me over on lots of things, and you know, I wish him the best. I'll try to be positive, right? But no, definitely not my friend.
Thank you for the super chat, Brent, for OG. Keep up the good fight, OG. All right. And Stephen, this is a nice one. Could you let OG know that I'll be supporting him again now he's out? He knows of me because of Belfast. Thank you, Sean, from Stephen Ross.
Definitely, I remember you, brother. Thank you, brother. Thank you. God bless you, homie.
So IB Denmark wants to know your plans for the future.
Well, I'm gonna keep doing this YouTube thing, and this new channel. It's gonna have different setup. I'll say I'm gonna be doing the narco videos and histories and interviews, right? And I'm also going to be doing prison stories on there. So I'm going to bring a new aspect into it, and hopefully it works out. So we're going to have a Mexican prison story part, and then we're going to have the narco part on the same channel. And I'm going to work on that and keep concentrated, try to stay positive. Right now, I'm actually staying at a friend's house. I haven't even been able to get enough together to get my own place, which would be a lot better and help me work. But I'm blessed to be free, and just trying to keep it positive. It's hard because I ended up losing my home, right? I ended up losing my wife. I ended up losing my freedom, losing my health, and it's hard to keep positive, but it's the only thing to do. If we stay negative, we're just gonna fail. So I try to keep my head up, do positive, and hopefully with this new channel, I can start making another positive change in the world. Start doing some charity again, things I like to do, and you know, hopefully things are bright for the future.
So if you want some PSA, some prison survival advice, how do you avoid being unalived in Mexico prison?
Good question, brother. Well, mostly you can't be a slouch. You know, if people test you, you got to stand up for yourself, and you don't want to show you have money if you do have money, right? Because that could end up costing you your life. They'll try to get it out of you, and once they do, they'll just get rid of you. And don't be tough to the guards. Don't be trying to act hard to the guards or anything like that because it could end up costing you your life as well. So just trying to stay calm, avoid it, but being firm as well and defending yourself when there's no other option, I think is the best way to go. But like I said, it's kind of unavoidable sometimes too. If someone wants to take your life and you have a problem with them, if they have the money, they can get it done, and there's really nothing you can do about it. When 5 or 6 guards walk into your cell, take you out, and put a rope around your neck.
So Xi Jinping wants to know how much money would it have cost for you to pay off the cops in the first place and prevent you from going to jail?
They didn't want money. They'd already been paid to do that to me, basically. So there was no way for me to pay him or get out of it that way because they'd already been paid and made an agreement with somebody, um, my ex being included, and yeah, they weren't going to take a bribe because they were getting paid to do that. That's how it works, unfortunately. One way or
Chico
another,
wants
they're going to.
Chica wants to know, do you know anything about the Shankayla Robinson case?
I don't think so, but is that the a girl from California who ended up losing her life? I think in Los Cabos or something like that. I'm not sure if that's the case.
I don't know. I'll look it up while you answer this one. Are your family okay?
Yes, brother, they're okay. Well, I'm separated now from my ex, but thank God my kids are okay. You know, I'm trying to get a little bit of money together to be able for them to come visit me because I can't go where they're at, the city. So I was trying to hopefully get them to come out here and see me. I haven't seen them in 2 years. It's hard, but yeah, they're okay. Thank God they're healthy. If you could see that kind of made me a little bit sad just talking about it.
So Shankayla was an American businesswoman, founder of a woman's fashion clothing, hairstyle, social media from North Carolina, who was unalived while on vacation in Mexico in 2022 in Cabo San Lucas.
Yep, that's it then. I said Los Cabos. That's it. Yeah, her friends did end up killing her, right? And then it ended up getting hidden, basically. I remember that. Yeah, her own friends invited her out there and ended up taking her life. Supposedly that's what happened. Then the autopsy was doctored. There's lots of very strange things about the case, and I know her family got involved trying to expose what's going on. But yes, I know about that case a little bit. I remember what you're talking about. About 2 years ago, I think, before I actually got thrown into prison is when it happened. So yes, I remember that. Yeah, there's a lot of weird things about it, including the autopsy and yeah.
Are you
Am
staying
I
with no beard? Brendan wants to know.
I kind of took off a lot of the beard. It's not too long anymore, brother. Um, they made me shave when I was in there constantly, but I think I'm gonna grow it back out.
Nana wants to know, are you okay with yourself?
Oh, life's hard, brother. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'm blessed to be free. So that makes me happy, you know. And I'm actually here at a friend's house right now. They're really good people. He's letting me use his phone to do this interview. So thank God I got some good people trying to help me out. How is
How is
Carlos? I don't talk to him anymore, bro. He's basically a fraud. So we already talked about that. That's Comandante Fantasma. I'm really disappointed in him, honestly, but I'm not going to get negative and get into that right now.
what was the medical care like? Deborah wants to know.
Excuse me, taking a sip of water.
All right, I'll
It was
put your link
garbage.
in the chat.
It was garbage.
Uh,
It was complete garbage. It's a joke. They have expired antibiotics, and they just try to get you out of there as fast as you come in, and it's just a joke, you know.
so your channel, when we started, had just one subscriber, me. Now it's got 52. We've got a
Thank you.
thousand people. We've got 1,000 people watching right now. So there is the link, guys. Come on, let's help OG Shadow rebuild his channel.
Please, please, thank you, everybody. If you'd go subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Daily, I'm gonna be putting up videos again, and let's do it.
Agent Orange is asking, CA prison gangs are few or a lot of them?
Are you talking California prison gangs or what? Well, I don't understand the question.
I don't understand the question either. Is California prison gangs are few or a lot of them? Is he asking if, because this is
Well,
Mexico,
California, you have the Aryan Brotherhood, you have the Mexican Mafia, you have the street factions, the Bloods, the Crips, and all that. I think Los Angeles is the gang capital of the world, actually, if I remember correctly. If that's the question.
yeah, it's crazy out there. All right,
But
man,
John knows about that.
we've got through all the questions. Brent, thank you for the super chat. Keep up the good fight, OG.
God bless you. Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion to the people watching?
Thank you, everyone who supported me and helped me out. Please go subscribe. There's a link for Buy Me a Coffee too. And, God bless each and every one of you who support this channel. And we're going to make a change and keep it positive again. And hopefully in the near future, we can do some big things. We'll see what happens. But may God bless every one of you and take care of yourselves and keep positive. We only have one life. So enjoy it. Enjoy your family, enjoy your health. If anything, I learned to appreciate that more after being in the situation I was in and getting out alive. I feel I'm blessed to be here and be able to talk to every one of you. And thank you, Sean, for everything. You're a very kind soul, and I appreciate the friendship we have, my friend.
I appreciate that too, brother. Much love and respect. Thank you for joining us. You stay safe, brother.
You as
All right, that was OG Shadow. So if you've not subscribed, please subscribe. Here is his link. I'm putting it back in. And then we've also got his Buy Me a Coffee link. I'm going to put that one back in, and they're all in the description box. If you want to check out, he's still alive. A lot of us thought he was unalived. He's still alive, and he's going to get right back to it. So he's got huge cojones for doing that. He's not going to rethink his occupation. The story about getting the lance in the neck. Wow, unbelievable. Unbelievable. So what's going to happen next is I've got the news coming at 9 o'clock UK. That's 15 minutes We've got the Diddy news. We've got the Jay-Z news. And then at 9:30, we've got a Diddy survivor that we've never interviewed before. And his name is Rocco. So he's coming on at 9:30, I believe. I'll check with Shane in a minute, see if anything has changed. And then, excuse me, Courtney Burgess is coming on Friday now at 9 o'clock. And we've got Tommy Scoville on tomorrow night. And we've got Ron on tomorrow night as well. So I'm going to sign off for now and speak to you guys in 15 minutes when I come back on to do the headlines. So take care wherever you are in the world. Thank you for supporting OG. Please subscribe. And we'll see